everyone. My name is Luis Hernandez, and I'm the National Director of Youth Campaigns and Leadership at the Gathering for Justice. I'm excited to welcome you all tonight to our Youth Voter Forum, and on behalf of everyone at the Gathering for Justice, I want to thank you all so much for joining us. As many of you know, the Gathering for Justice was founded in 2005 by the legendary Harry Belafonte, an artist, an activist, and civil rights leader who built a national movement to end child incarceration. Now, in our 15th year of social and racial justice movement work, the Gathering has expanded to include our task forces, Justice League NYC and Justice League California. Please make sure that you're tapping into our work on Twitter and Instagram at NY Justice League and at Gather4Justice. Our Voice, Our Power is an ongoing series centering young people and encouraging their leadership now and beyond COVID. An effort to sustain important dialogues, we convened the youth cohort at the start of the pandemic that has engaged our audience through storytelling, intersectional conversations like this one, which address the social ills affecting their lives and examines how the pandemic has exacerbated them. Tonight, Our Voice, Our Power brings to you an incredible lineup of youth leaders from across the country, activating their communities to get out the vote in the 2020 elections. I first want to introduce Bria Baker. Bria Baker first is my sister in this movement, a close comrade of mine, my peer mentor, and a skilled communication strategist, influencer, engagement professional, activist, organizer, and all-around incredible human being who has contributed to dozens of electoral and advocacy campaigns, including the 2017 Women's March on Washington, where she served as the youngest national organizer. She has led campaigns like ones of Free Meek Mill, as well as pushed Jumaane Williams, public advocate of New York City, into his office, into elected office, and has worked in coalition with other activists and organizers throughout the country. Recognized as the 2017 Glamour Woman of the Year, as well as featured on ABC's The View, Elle Magazine, Vice, Man Repler, and International Youth to Youth Summit, Bria has done so much work to activate people to get out the vote, activate people to organize, and activate people in many movements throughout social justice. Bria is a Justice League NYC member and has served on Justice League for over 5 years now. And Bria, I want to let you speak, but I think just to get off script a bit, Bria has done so much work and is consistently organizing and activating young people across the country, right? Bria is a gold standard for what it looks like to organize young people, for what it looks like to civically engage communities, so what it looks like to intentionally involve our people in this movement. So much of this is not about us. It's not even about just this one election. It's about what we're doing now to pave the way for those who come before and beyond us. It's to honor our elders and our ancestors who fight for the right to vote. And so Bria, I want to pass it to you to take us in and share with us a little bit of that historical analysis of what our elders have done for us and why it's so important for us to show up now and honor them by getting our people out to vote.
Ooh, oh my gosh, Luis, thank you so much for that introduction. Number one, I was getting a little emotional over here, like, oh, thank you, Luis. But no, seriously, I think you hit it right on the head as what we do at the Gathering for Justice and where we see ourselves in this fight. So I just want to give honor to the Gathering for being the hosting space here, and to Carmen Perez and her leadership, and hope she's enjoying her maternity leave. But to get into this historical analysis and get myself out of the way so I can bring on these incredible panelists who y'all are about to hear from, I wanted to start exactly where Luis just left off. And what did our ancestors do for us to get us to this point? And what kinds of new ancestors do we want to be for future generations? First and foremost, there's a phrase that often gets parroted that our ancestors died for the right to vote. And I don't believe that. I believe that our ancestors died for liberation. And they saw voting as a pathway towards that, right? So we have to be careful with our words, but we also have to be mindful of the fact that we don't leave anything at the table. Every tool that we could possibly use to further our journey towards a more liberated future, towards a more just future, we're going to use every single one of that. So we're doing protests, we're doing policy, and we're voting, right? Because it's all one tool that we're going to pull out of our tool belt to bring this forward. And we didn't create this. We're not inventing the wheel. We learned this from John Lewis. We learned this from Shirley Chisholm, who were able to go into the halls and help and support what those out on the streets were doing. So we need be foot soldiers everywhere, right? We're effective everywhere. And that's what our ancestors did to get us to this place. And we know we got a lot of work to do, right? So we got to put our foot on the pedal, and we got to make sure that our people show up. Because when we are putting out the Breathe Act, that Movement for Black Lives is putting forward, and a radical policy platform for Black liberation, right? It's going to be senators voting on that. So not just the presidential race, right? But we got to flip the Senate, who is going to confirm or stop the confirmations of the Supreme Court justices. Like, there's so much at stake here. And so I'm going to transition us into this panel so that we can hear from these dynamic young people who have been leading for quite some time. I'm just going to get into these bios because it's about to be incredible. So as I introduce you, please turn on your camera so the entire community can hear you. First up, we have Jamira Burley, who is recognized by the Obama White House as a champion of change and a Forbes Under 30 honoree in law and policy. She is an expert on youth engagement, education reform, social impact, gun violence prevention, and criminal justice reform. And I'm not just saying that, like, legit. Like, yes, I'm reading that off, but she's an expert in all of those areas. She flawlessly threads those together and helps people understand how these issues are interconnected, because we know we don't experience just one. In 2018, she was the first United States citizen awarded the Global Leadership Award for Vital Voices and was selected as an MIT Media Lab Fellow. So we are so lucky to have you here with us, Jamira. Next up, I'm going to introduce Carla Starrett, who is a dynamic 17-year-old student activist and organizer with Why Vote. Since 2017, Carla has done a range of work to encourage civic engagement and get young folks pre-registered, registered, and out to the polls, because we know there are a lot of 17-year-olds turning 18, a lot of people who weren't around for the last midterm who are able to show up now. And in the last couple of moments that we've been introduced and learning from one another, I'm also seeing you are funny, Carla. So I'm excited to have you on this panel and to have your energy. Thank you so much for being here. Next up is my other little sis, Winter Brienne. Winter is a change maker that works at the intersection of social justice, politics, and culture. From organizing the national school walkouts, which I watched her do so flawlessly and on a major scale, where 2.7 million students chose to take a stand against gun violence, to working with Toms to donate $5 million to grassroots organizations. Okay, we love a philanthropic queen. To partnering with Amplifier and Shepard Farer to release a curriculum she wrote into 20,000 schools nationwide. I'm just in awe of you, Winter. I'm so excited to have you here. Leon Scoggins, Pastor Leon Scoggins, is an entrepreneur, motivational speaker, millennial influencer, and author with a growing platform of 33,000 youth and young adults. Pastor Leon has earned a reputation for reaching younger people across the world and helping them achieve their fullest potential, no matter where one may be in the process. He is currently the youngest pastor in Stockton, California, where he serves as the founder and lead pastor of Life City Church. And with such a passion for building communities and young people, Pastor Scoggin has hosted many community prayer rallies and organized initiatives to advocate change. And lastly, but certainly not least, we are bringing up Dawud. Dawud is a model, yes, storyteller, student organizer, and first generation Somali Muslim American from Salt Lake City, Utah. He is the youngest board member at March for Our Lives and has an extended organizing track record on gun violence prevention and police violence. He uses storytelling as a means for exploring sex and gender inequality. Thank you so much for being here, Dawud. I mean, can we just give a round of applause for like the stacked panel we have right here? Like, I'm almost afraid to ask the first question because I know mics are about to be dropped, but we're going to get into this. So in any order, we're keeping this open, build off of one another and don't feel like you have to wait for me to address you, but I will be addressing some of y'all for certain areas. But just let's talk about what's at stake this year. Like, why are these elections so pivotal? Let's answer the question that we know the answer, that it is pivotal, but why? And I kind of want to hear from you, Jamira, if you don't mind, just because Jamira has worked campaigns before. I didn't even get to tell y'all about what she did with the Hillary campaign. So I want to hear sort of your political expertise here on what this election means.
It's so funny when you were looking at the camera, I was like, I feel like she's looking at me. Well, first of all, I am super honored to join this panel. As you're reading everyone's bio, I'm just like, why am I here? They have all the answers. They're brilliant. They're great. But I'm excited. No, this is what I needed to maintain my sanity for the rest of the week. That being said, what's at stake, right? We know that to be Black and to be alive is a revolution, right? Is to be protesting, because our existence is every single day questioned, its legitimacy is questioned. And I think what's at stake, I'm a firm believer, to your point, that election isn't going to get Black people to liberation, but it is an opportunity for us to choose our opponent and for us to work in collaboration with our opponent to move us closer to Black liberation, move us closer to freedom. That being said, what is at stake, right? We have two very different options going into the voting booth. We can have a debate on whether or not one is closer to our moral compass or not, or whether or not it's our ideal candidate. But in all reality, we have two candidates. One is realistically a dictator who is trying to destroy the democracy. And another person may not be perfect, but is definitely someone who, at the very least, recognize the legitimacy of our existence and is willing to work in collaboration with us to find opportunities for Black freedom and Black liberation. So I think what's at stake is us having a playing field in order to negotiate terms in which creates better livelihoods for Black folks, versus going up against someone who wants to destroy every single institution that may provide us some level of accountability for the very people who are killing us and oppressing us. So I think what's at stake is providing us with an even playing field to be able to properly advocate for the lives of Black folks.
Yes, I am taking several notes. Several notes have been jotted down. Jamira, thank you so much for starting us off, and I'm so honored to be here. I wanted to, the title of what she said is to choose our opponent, right? It's so important that the stake of November 3rd is the context in which we organize in on November 4th, right? Mm-hmm. What are we gonna do to materially change the lives of houseless folks, of Black trans women, right? Of our undocumented folks, because understanding that Black liberation is a liberation for everyone, right? But also that we're angry, right? We're tired, we're hurt, we're frustrated, right? And so what's at stake this election is to keep our voice, right? To continue fighting for our voice, right? To show out in record numbers, because they're going to understand that on November 4th, we're going to keep showing up, right? And that's why I'm showing up, right? As a first-time voter in a presidential election, because I want to understand, I want people to know that I'm here to stay for the long run. And I think that all of my peers here are in the same energy that we're going to pick our opponent and we're going to win this fight, because this is a battle, right? That we're going to continue fighting until we win our war, which is getting Black liberation.
Yes, honestly, everything that has just been said is just music to my ears. And my birthday is actually on November 4th, so close. I'm 17. I'm so close of possibly being able to vote, but definitely